Mariners win 5-2. They salvage one game of the 3-game series. They improve to 5-8. They end the road trip 3-3. Let's talk about it. Um, Game does not start out great. Mariners don't score in the first inning for what seems like the first time since October 13th of 1986, honestly. But they do give up a run in the bottom of the first. Logan Gilbert on a sac fly from Cody Bellinger to make it 1-0. But the Mariners answer back in the third. Hey, Eugenio Suarez swingles, baby. JP Crawford to score a run to tie the game at 1-1. And then Teoscar Hernandez stings a baseball up the middle to give them a 2-1 lead. Not a whole heck of a lot happens between the fourth and the seventh inning, but in the seventh, the Mariners get some insurance with a Ty France single that scores JP Crawford again. In the eighth inning, Teoscar Hernandez and Jarred Kelenic go back to make it 5-1. Cody Bellinger does get a home run in the ninth off of Paul Sewald. I will caution people who play in fantasy baseball. Paul Sewald in non-save situations could hurt the old ERA a little bit, because that is not a guy who is afraid to pound the strike zone. He absolutely knows what the score is and what's going on. You saw it in the 11-2 game that he gave up those 2 runs. You saw him leave kind of a cookie cutter today. It's frustrating if you do have him on your fantasy roster, but the Mariners don't care. Paul Sewald doesn't care. And ultimately, I don't care too much. I actually have Paul Sewald on a couple of rosters. So, it's not great, but just something to keep in mind. There should be more good than bad. Let's start with Logan Gilbert, because he started and I thought he pitched really well. Really well. And what was encouraging was a couple of things. First of all, injury worry averted. Was very not skeptical, but really wanted to see it after he said it wasn't injury related, why his velocity and his command was so bad. He said that he was having trouble staying in his rotation, or staying in his delivery. He pitched really well today, and the fastball velocity was good, average 96. That's right around where you see him at his best. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Bounced back nice. Command improved as the game went along. And what I really like is that his command got better as the game went on and pitched into the 7th inning. That bullpen needed it. That bullpen needed somebody to go deep today, and they got perfect. Would have been cool to see him complete the 7, but you'll take 6 2/3 innings of 1-run baseball almost all the time. 7 strikeouts, just the 1 walk. Really, really solid stuff from the man they call Walter. Matt Brash got bailed out by the umpires a little bit. The umpiring today was atrocious, as it's been all week, as it's been all series, as it's been for a few years. Robots come take over. Just bad. It's not even umpires' faults. Pitchers throw too hard with too much movement. Catchers are too good at framing. We're helping you out by taking this away from you. You should be happy that you don't have to do this anymore. You've got plenty of responsibility on the bases. You can manage your time clock. Oh my gosh, umpires just must love having that authority. But you can't call balls and strikes anymore. Sorry. It's over. It's got to be over. Justin Topa, really impressive again. 9 of 10 pitches for strikes. Struck out a guy, didn't give up any hard contact that I can remember anyway. He's been great. It's been awesome to see. Topa and Spire have been saviors, so to speak, of this bullpen. And then Paul Sewald does give up the run, but again, it meant nothing. It was in a 5-1 game. It was a solo home run. Kind of fun for me to see Cody Bellinger swing the baseball bat pretty well, which he did today. Just as a guy who wants to see him get back. Prefer not do it against the Mariners, but it is nice to see some success from a guy that good. It makes you feel a little more sane. We'll talk about sanity here in a sec, actually. Lineup was solid today. Julio Rodriguez gets a couple of hits, gets caught stealing on one of the most unlucky caught stealings I've ever seen. He beat the throw by a good 2 or 3 feet. Unfortunately, his hand went right into the shoe of whoever was covering second base. That's just bad luck, and they take him out, and the replay confirmed it. Ty France reaches 3 times. Eugenio Suarez drives in the run. Cal Raleigh does draw the walk, doesn't get a hit, but had some nice at bats. JP Crawford, really nice game. Scores a couple runs, reaches twice. We will take that. We will take that. Get on a couple of times. Give Julio and Ty and Eugenio chances to drive in runs. We're not asking for big power, but I will say he did have a nice double. Hit into that left center field gap and put his so-so wheels on display and was able to score a run out of it. I'll take it. I will absolutely take it. Let's talk about Teoscar and Jarred. We'll close with Jarred because, yeah. Hernandez stung the baseball again today. Love to see it. And if not for Kelenic's home run being the longest home run in StatCast history in Wrigley Field, let that sink in. We'd be talking about how much he mollywopped the heck out of his homer. That ball was crushed, and big because Mariners had not done anything on offense from the third inning on. It's 3-1. Give yourself some nice insurance with that solo blast. Also had that RBI single that was hit hard up the middle. Believe that was over 100 miles per hour in exit velocity as well. Really solid game from a really solid hitter. Zero worries about Teoscar. He is not the 216, 273, 431 you see in front of him. He's just not. He will be fine. It's 2 weeks. 2 weeks of bad baseball. Mediocre baseball. Mediocre results. Changed it like 3 times there for you. And yes, it has only been 13 games for this guy. But we got to talk about Jarred Kelenic again. This is happening, folks. This is happening. I don't care how small the sample is. The eye test. And look, you have to keep in mind that I am a person who has a prospect background, who I think has a pretty good scouting eye. And this was one of the best young players that I had seen in the minors. And he was making me feel real dumb based on his results. But also, I just knew that he was capable of stuff like this. Now, the question is he capable of doing this going forward? Is he capable of sustaining this? And what happens when he goes through the struggles? What happens? And I'll tell you why I'm encouraged, especially today, about that. So, Kelenic hits a single in the first inning. He comes up with the bases loaded, and I believe the third, right? And on a 3-2 pitch, he takes a borderline strike. I think it was a strike. Right kind of down in the middle of the down the middle, but on the knees. Might have been a little low, but I think it was a strike. And a lot of times what we would see from Kelenic after that is an unraveling. Not today. Not today, and not for most of the year. He took the pitch, which he probably thought was a good process taking that pitch, and he just unleashes on a baseball. Like, go, if you haven't seen it, go search for it. Make it your Windows. Make it your home screen on your phone. It is such an aesthetically pleasing homer. And it's so amazing to see how much hard contact this guy is making right now. And it's such a nice bounce back, too, on this road trip after, outside of the opposite field double, really not a good series against the Angels. But boy, was he good against the Cubs. Homers in 3 straight games. And you saw it, too. You saw him tie the game at 2 on a ball he pulled to right field. You saw him get within 1 with an absolute scorching line drive last night into left center field. And then you saw that power to dead center today. How many guys can do that? How many hitters do you know who can do that? Who can crush baseballs to all parts of the field with that kind of exit velocity and that kind of strength? because you have to be strong to do stuff like that. I think it's happening, folks. I really think it's happening. And I think you really got to start wondering about whether or not you want to keep this guy hitting sixth, because there's a couple ways to go about it. It's obviously working for him right now. And do you really want to make too much of an adjustment? But also, don't you want this guy getting more at bats? That's a tough one for me. I joked on Twitter, though. Maybe the reason that you keep him hitting sixth is so you forget about how crappy the bottom of this order is, because once again, and I'm not going to end it on a negative, but I am going to get into it. Cooper Hummel was awful. Colton Wong was awful. Very, very poor effort from those guys. Nice to see Crawford get on a couple of times so that I can't just say it's the bottom of the order. But nobody gave a crap about Hummel and Wong struggling because Kelenic and Teoscar were so good. That's all you were talking about. And you should have been. Man, they're bad right now. That DH position is just a lost cause, and Wong has to start playing better. I'm giving him the veteran benefit of the doubt. Everybody has bad 2 weeks. This one just happens to be the only sample size he has as a Seattle Mariner, but it's been ugly. Ugly, ugly, ugly. But I don't care. Not today, I don't. Not today, because Jarred Kelenic is just making me so happy. It makes me so happy to see him have success. The swing just looks so much crisper and so much more. It's so much easier to repeat. I love it. I love it so much, man. It's so big. It's so big to look like look, I like Ty France. I like Eugenio Suarez. I really like Cal Raleigh. And I think Teoscar Hernandez is a really good baseball player too, especially on the offensive side of the baseball. But Julio Rodriguez, it's pretty obvious, is going to be a superstar if he's not already. Having a second potential star, big. Having that legitimate second 4 to 5 win offensive player would just be so massive. So massive. And based on what I've seen over these 2 weeks, he absolutely can do it. And based on what I saw from him in the minors, he can absolutely do it. And based on 2021 and 2022, I'm not 100% sure he can do it. But there's a large sample of his success in the minor leagues, and it does matter. It's not the same thing as the majors. Obvious point is as obvious as it can get. But you've seen what this dude can do when he's at his best. And what we're seeing from Jarred Kelenic right now, when he's at his best, he's been one of the best offensive players in baseball. Go look at his Baseball Savant page and look at how much is in the red, and in the red is very good. It's in the 90th percentile and a bunch of stuff. And the biggest thing of all, 78th percentile in chase rate. He knows what he's doing at the plate right now. It's awesome. It's awesome. I will take no but this, but that with Jarred Kelenic right now. I don't want to hear it. He's been great. Man. I know I say man a lot on this show, by the way, but I'm so happy. I'm so happy for Jarred Kelenic, man. And I'm happy for us to get to watch this. Whew. So, 5-8. Get the Colorado Rockies coming up next, who are terrible. Very bad baseball team. Haven't played terribly, actually, really, to begin the year. They're bad. This is a series that you should be winning. It's like an understatement of understatements. This is a series that you should be winning. Just looking here to see what the standings are. Yeah, Colorado's 5-8. Not good. Seattle Mariners are 5-8. But Colorado is a much worse roster than the Seattle Mariners. Much worse. Should be fun. If you get a chance, go to the games and go get that big dumper bobblehead. That thing looks sick. Friday's matchup is Austin Gomer versus Marco Gonzalez, a battle of former St. Louis pitching prospects. Interesting. And then it's worth pointing out that Sunday was supposed to be Germain Marquez for the Rockies, but he got placed on the injured list. So it'll be somebody like Peter Lambert or maybe Carl Kaufman. Either way, a massive pitching advantage for Sunday's game. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Crawford_MILB. Give my Patreon a look, patreon.com/MLB prospect guides. Check out my podcast, Sports Sometimes. You can find it on Apple or Spotify or whatever. I had the great Keith Law on last time, and we talked about prospect writing, and we also talked about pizza. So for those unfamiliar, the show, how it works is I have a guest on who's in the sports industry. Won't always be a person in the sports industry, but most of the time it will. And we talk about sports, or really their subject they're comfortable with, for the first half of the show. And then the second half of the show, they have to pick the topic. And so far we've had David Roth, and David Roth talked about jerseys and memorabilia and stuff like that, and how it's kind of weird wearing it or how we feel about it. I had Jake and Jordan from Suspetta's Family Barbecue in episode 2, and they talked about eating kosher, and I talked about Lent. It was very, very informative, and I thought very interesting. And then again, Keith Law, and we talked about pizza and why, if you're putting pineapple on that thing, you're a horrible human being. There's no joking here. You're bad if you put pineapple. I'm just kidding. You should not put pineapple on pizza, but you're not necessarily a terrible person. You might have terrible taste. So yeah, this was fun. Tomorrow there's no game. I'm going to do a video anyway, and just as a spoiler, we're going to promote a giveaway. I think it's going to be a really cool one too. Try to get to that 500 subscriber mark by the end of the month. We're at like 315 now. Super happy. But again, we got to get to 1,000 so Chris can make some money off of this. And if I don't make a ton of money off it, it's okay because I'm having a blast doing this. But it'd be nice to make some money. Yeah, fun win. And Jarred Kelenic, I hope you got a couple of seats to yourself because you absolutely earned it this week.